This is a true story. Although the characters of this podcast are composites of real men and time and place have been compressed, every detail of this discussion is the way it really happened. Welcome to the Three Body Narrative. We are your hosts, Pradyum, Aaron, and Naeem, and we are here to discuss movies, TV shows, games, and everything pop culture. And for today's episode, we are discussing the evergreen classic, The Great Escape. So, what's The Great Escape all about? Well, simply put, it is a prison escape movie set during World War II, where a group of Allied veterans or soldiers, the British and the Americans, uh, are prisoners in a Nazi camp, and the entire movie revolves around their plot to escape the prison and gain freedom. They do this, or the plan is to dig a tunnel out of the prison grounds, but they soon realize that it's easier said and planned than done. So, guys, let's start with our ratings of this episode. So, Naeem, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So this movie, initially going into this movie, reading the plot or the summary of, not exactly the summary, but the plot of what the movie is about, looked
Mm-hmm.
like a very serious movie. To be honest, I was not looking forward, and especially I think this movie came out early, like in the 60s or something.
Yeah,
And
60s, yeah.
looking at it, I was not thrilled to kind of or looking forward to watching the movie. To be honest, having said that, the first I think 20 minutes of the movie kind of hooked me in a way, because even though it was like dealing with some serious issues and topics to kind of cover throughout the movie, the tone of the movie was kind of very unique, in the sense that it's considering the whole plot in itself or how serious topic it is, it just felt like a very funny take on it. In a way, I don't understand
Yeah,
like how to explain it perfectly, but I just love that mix of kind of dealing with that serious or like um, very critical issues, or a way to explain what really happened in some of these camps in a way where it didn't seem too much to consume or too raw to consume. Sometimes I think it
yeah,
can hit you really hard, and like you have to be in the right place to consume that kind of media perhaps. But I was pleasantly surprised by how much I, by the end of the movie, liked what they had actually done with the source material that they had. I loved the ensemble. A lot of the people that I didn't know at all, like I mean, I've not really watched the early movies to know, but Steve
yeah.
McQueen is someone I really knew about, and like I saw him on the screen, and I'm like, okay, he's there. Like maybe this one's gonna be like a good movie, and
Okay.
it just, by the end of the movie, I was really happy with it. And like for a movie that came out in the 1960s, it
Yeah.
really holds up well for something, like if I put it in comparison to like a Bollywood movie per se right now, right? Like it just,
Okay.
there's just so much good in this movie, and
Yeah.
especially even like the VFX. Like there's this scene where you've got a plane that takes off a runway and it's flying through some of the city and stuff like that. Just the way it's shot, it just feels like real. Like it doesn't feel any sort of green screen there or anything like that, right? Like, and that's speaking volumes for something that was done so long ago.
Yeah.
So all in all, a 4 out of 5 for me. Like
Okay.
it could even be a 4.5 to be honest, but I think just like I'm sure it's like there's a lot. Um, like I think certain things perhaps would have been better for this if it were like more of a series of sorts, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of this happens over a longer period of time,
Yeah.
and can't obviously be explored. Like this movie in itself, I think it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes, if not more. So there's like a lot in there, but perhaps like I would have liked to see the intricacies of like the digging and everything that goes into kind of planning. Like it's, I feel like it's rushed through in the planning and all of that because they don't have enough time to kind of flesh that out for you. But in what they've done within the time they had, it was brilliant for me.
Okay. All right. I'm surprised by how high you rated this movie because when Aaron recommended the movie, I knew what it was, and I'm a sucker for really old school, Hollywood movies, and I was waiting to. I don't think I'd watched The Great Escape before this, and so I was pretty pleasantly surprised to see, you know, to watch the entire movie. And you're right, like it is a very serious plot. Like the
Yeah.
entire thing is meant to be very harrowing, very serious, very dark. But that's the one thing I really love about these old school movies is they bring a lightheartedness to these kind of darkness, which, if it was made, I think in current day, I'm pretty sure this would have been the most harrowing viewing experience because right now everything likes to be like dark and gritty and grounded. There it just felt very lighthearted, which I know for people maybe watching it would be like they might look at it as a criticism that, how can you make light of something that is very dark and that's, affected a lot of people. But I really liked it. It was good to see some familiar faces as well from the old school movies, like especially if you watch like the Magnificent Seven and all of that. Even to see a very very young Richard Attenborough, who I've only seen in Jurassic Park. So to see him basically lead the entire team as Bartlett was insane. Like, man, that guy had aged since that and Jurassic Park. So it was really cool to see all of that. And yeah, I think it had me at the edge of my seat at times because honestly, I didn't know what the outcome was going to be like. As much as this is a true story, and a lot of people say, oh, you anyway know what happened in the end. But I didn't, especially because this seemed a very niche story as well. Like, it wasn't a massive thing that happened in the history of time, and this focused on basically one battalion or one particular area. So I was on the edge of my seat, especially when the whole escape thing happened. I loved the whole planning and the plotting of the escape. Loved the different roles each one took. It just felt like I want to play this game somehow, but at the same time, like, knowing that this is really really harrowing, and if this is to happen in today's time, like, God help us all. No way is this going to work out. So overall, in terms of the movie, I'd also give it a 4 out of 5. I really liked it, and I think, like Naeem said, it holds the like it still remains very relevant and holds the test of time. Like, so it is like, I think it still works in today's world. There's nothing where I went like, oh, this is weird or this is outdated. I still think if today we were prisoners of a camp, we'd have to strategize like this as well. And I think the outcome also would probably be the same, unfortunately. So I guess that's my rating for this movie. Aaron?
Yeah, I think a lot of the points I think I would echo that you guys have put forward. I'll start with my rating. I think I'd rate it on 4.5. I think nostalgia plays a key role in that. But having said that, I think like you said, I like the lightheartedness of the movie. It and I think uh, where we kind of are more accepting of the lightheartedness is because, again, I think they don't really take names or are specific about who is involved in this whole uh, thing that happened. So you're not kind of I don't think there was ever the intention of it, but I think it also is like, we're not making light of the lives that were lost and stuff like that way. And it was more just to kind of show you things that people went through during that time. So that was pretty cool. I think, like Naeem said, if it was a series, it would have been pretty cool because you would like
Oh
to
yeah.
see how the planning of, like there were some pretty cool characters. Like I forget the name, but the guy who used to keep scavenging for like all the different tools and stuff that they needed. It would have been pretty nice to see how they went about trying to get those things. Like I think one of the German soldiers by the name of Werner, like how they duped him into
Yeah.
thinking, ah, we are friends, giving him the chocolate and stuff like that. That was like really cool. And so if we could squeeze in more of that stuff into it, it would have been really, really nice. So yeah, that was pretty fun. I think even the character development, though they did a good job, like over time to kind of see that kind of happening would have been nice. Like even the friendship between Colin and again the scavenger guy, I don't know, but like as his eyesight starts to
Oh
fail
yeah.
him, and then how the because of camaraderie, he's like, no, I will take him along with me and stuff like that. That was pretty cool, and I think the first time that Bartlett gets kind of identified, that guy kind of risks his life or kind of goes and somehow manages to get that German guy shot, and then in the end he loses his life too. But yeah, that kind of camaraderie and to see that kind of developing would have been pretty nice. But yeah, all in all, I really liked the movie. Like you said, like some of the scenes, though it was shot so long ago, like everything that McQueen did on the bike, like a lot of times now you would see like over the top CGI stuff, but this was like you knew that was actually being done by someone. So that was really nice to see the plane also on the runway and stuff. Pretty cool. So yeah, I was very happy to have rewatched the movie.
Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna do my usual thing of asking you a question which you guys haven't planned for. All right. If we were trapped in such a camp, right, and we were planning this escape, what would your roles be? Which role would you want to take up?
I wouldn't take up the digging for sure. I wouldn't fit in there. So that's not
No, but
but
honestly, you'd be great for it because you'd be the perfect sort of size. You like we'd make sure that that much of
enough
Hold up the
space for
tunnel.
everyone to pass through. Yeah, perhaps. But my God, that whole experience looked harrowing, especially uh, those situations where there are like partial cave-ins at times when they're digging through. That looked really claustrophobic, and I would just imagine to kind of like this is a little still a very light-hearted version of it, right? To
yeah,
be actually in that situation and considering it's a true story and how that whole experience would have been, it's so scary to think about. Even now, like when I was thinking about the movie just earlier today, I was like, the fact it's a whole other ball game to have the actual tools and like dig through and like
mm,
get that done, right? Like to not have the right things in place and still make do with like I don't know what you call those, like the boards that you have under the beds,
yeah.
like wooden boards and
Those
stuff like
slates
that, and
were
use that.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, and like to kind of use those things as support and to trust that it will withstand everything that you put through it. Not only that, even setting up like that rail kind of a thing to
yeah,
kind of, my God, like with what you got, like how you kind of managed to put that, like build that, my whoever did that, like in reality, brilliant shit, man.
Genius.
Like crazy. I
yeah.
swear, like with all the tools that are available to us right now, I can't put that together. So brilliant, fantastic stuff. I loved, like I said, right, like there were these things where the uniform they talk about,
Yeah,
and when
yeah,
one of
yeah.
the guys fought and they're like, it was bleached, or like there's some color something they talk about, and
Correct.
the patch goes off or whatever and stuff like that. Like I would have actually liked to see more of how they get the color right and all of that, which you cannot do in a movie because there's not enough time, but in a series, like how you have like a Chernobyl or something, even like a nine episode limited series of sort would have really done this. Some like if there's ever a remake, it would have like it would be better to kind of dive deep into those things as well. Um, and one funny aspect of this is like I don't think this is the experience anyone wants to have, but I- when I was watching this movie, I'm like, why do I feel like I've seen bits and pieces of this somewhere before? And
Okay.
you or not, it was an Amitabh Bachchan movie which came out, I think, in early
Jesus Christ.
2000s. Oh my
What the
god! And you will not believe it. And I was like, wait, don't tell me there's this movie called Diwar. Is this is Diwar a remake of this movie by any chance? And I googled it, and yeah, it was inspired by this movie. I like, oh my god, no way, like crazy. But yeah, so this Amitabh Bachchan and Sanjay Dutt and all of that. It's like loosely based on this movie, but some scenes were like, and I've not watched Diwar like the entire movie. Okay, like I've watched bits and pieces of it, especially the escape part of the movie, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is way too many similarities in the way things are, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool. But it's nice, like in like this movie for me more than anything else, it's the fact that it does so much with so limited resources at hand, just like how the soldiers do so much with such limited resources
Tools
at
and yeah.
tools at their hand and stuff like that. So some of my favorite characters, yeah,
I,
the
I
poly.
love that you've completely ignored my initial question
Oh, I'm
and
so
like
sorry.
you said, yeah, I'm not going to be the digger, but screw that shit. We're not moving on
Right,
into anyone.
coming
I'm going
back,
to talk about the
okay,
movie too.
coming back to the question, I suppose. I don't know, man. I'm more calculated in my approach in the sense that I don't think I'd be the first one to kind of get out there of such. I'd probably be one of the ones that helps strategize everything and stuff like that and put things into place, but kind of see probably be one of the few last ones to kind of get out. So
Okay.
to make sure that the plan's actually working, or like is this
We
like
just need to outrun him.
Yeah, exactly. I
yeah,
know.
whatever. I don't know. Like, I think there's this. Again, it also depends on what kind of mind frame you're in, considering the time you've been in there, and that desperation to kind of like get out and away from what's being this thing. I think if that's happening and you kind of reach that point, then yeah. You never know. I might even be the first one. Just like screw this shit. I'll just put my head out and
Yeah. He's like, "Ah, I'm getting out." He's like,
feel like screw that shit. Like I don't care if
"That-
the rope is not being tugged. I'm getting out of here. Like I really need to. And
We saw
it's
how
like
that ended, right?
yeah, yeah. When the guy
oh,
popped up his
that
head and his.
yeah. But I did understand the desperation of those people as well, and
Yeah,
like it's like being so close to that this thing, and you're like, I can't wait any longer. It's just, but that stupidity kind of plays the downfall for everything else. I mean, not to say that there's no chance that they don't find that hole there.
Yakuda,
Again, yeah,
I'm just asking a simple question. What role would you want to play in this
I,
entire
I think
escape? Strategist?
strategy,
Yeah?
strategist.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Simple. Aaron, please tell us.
uh, definitely not the strategist, because I think if the three of us were there, no one was getting out. So probably be either someone, I guess, involved in the whole getting the digging, or probably helping with the rails and stuff like that way. Probably that, or maybe at some time maybe be a lookout or something like that way. But yeah, maybe more on the ground than in the back room planning.
Nice. I would I would like to be the forger. I
Hmm.
think, or like also doing something a little more creative. I think getting those passports in the right place, and like I like the
Yeah,
finer details. I like making sure that the finer details are in line. And so I think I'd be good at like making sure that the passports and the documents and everything was in the right place. the worst job for me would be I think Henley, where he's networking with the German guy and everything, because I can't do that. I don't have a poker face. I think the guy would have found me out straight away. and and second is like, if I've got chocolate, I'm not sharing chocolate with anyone else.
Right.
Like chocolates from me.
I mean, at the end of the day, he does not end up sharing those chocolates with anyone. He just offers it and kind of does what he needs to do and takes the chocolate back too. So, win-win
Yeah.
situation.
No, that's true. So, okay, I wanted to ask one thing, which is, with talking about just the ending bit where they build the tunnel, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
they realize that they are 20 meters or something short of where they wanted to be, which is
Yeah.
into the forest. Would you guys have decided, since we are already role playing this game, would you have said continue digging and get to the forest, or would you have also done the same thing as these guys did? Because obviously the point is, like Naeem mentioned, like there is a desperation, or they wanted to get it. Did they have a reason as to why that particular date? Because of the
Yeah,
Doc-
they mentioned those dates because of the moon. I think the moon was it was an I think it was a new moon or something like that, because they said the moon dark or dark moon something they said
yeah.
like
So
that way.
I think no, but also like Naeem I think mentioned was, yeah, the documentation had already specified that date, so they couldn't change it.
Yeah, I mean they made the documents for those dates because they selected the dates because it would be dark then. But yeah,
Yeah.
once the
Yeah.
plan was in motion, then yeah, they couldn't go back because then they'd have to get those documents redone and stuff like that.
Because I would have thought that you first get the tunnel done and then maybe do the documentation, or you get the validity for that day. But I understand also, I guess, because I think the moon phase takes time, right? So, and you want to get out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So all of that combined, for me, I don't know. I'd maybe take the risk and say continue digging, but I would have not done the documentation beforehand. But do you guys think that they probably did the right thing?
Yeah. I think,
I,
see, so
yeah.
circumstances play a big hand, right? The fact that the tunnel is discovered, one of them, right?
Yeah,
That gets discovered as well.
Tom was discovered, I think, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Tom gets discovered. Dick and Harry kind of lay low for the
Yeah. Wow.
movie.
Okay.
Anyway,
Thank God you said Harry also, but yes.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you just said the Dick lays low, then that's like
But
whole different ballgame.
I think situation plays a major hand, and I think from a army perspective, from what I have like from what I understand from the different media consumption you have and like
Bollywood movies.
information you receive, no, not necessarily, right? But like bits and pieces of I think morale plays a huge role, right?
Hmm.
And if at the last hurdle, which this is, if there is suddenly like a huge pushback in terms of like, oh no, we need to now like cancel this, we need more time to kind of dig through, I think that like puts everyone off. You
Yeah.
lose that momentum of sorts, and you kind of, I think 3 years already passed from the time they set this plan in motion and all of that stuff. I think they just feel like if we don't do this now, it's not happening, kind of a thing, and they have to go through. And perhaps there's like a better chance of them succeeding if people actually just stay calm and kind of wait for the right move. But it does not help that the two main characters, well, one main, extremely main character in the guy from Jurassic Park, the one you mentioned, Bartlett, whatever,
Yeah, Bartlett. Yes.
that they decide to kind of leave their post and like command, or like, because they're at the edge of that tunnel that they had built. They were guiding people along with Steve McQueen's character
Yeah.
as to when the move needs to be. And the moment they kind of step out and leave that position and go, saying that they just have to kind of do it on by themselves, everything falls apart, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because you need that authoritarian approach. You need to calm people down, and by the time like these guys have kind of moved away from that place, there's no one to kind of tell people,
Yeah.
take a moment, breathe, it's okay, like it's gonna be okay, kind of a thing. And that's where everything falls apart. So yeah, I think it's just that being so close to everything, and the fact that if you don't do it now, everything just falls through. There's a 100 or a 99% chance that if it's now or never, kind of a thing. So you go through with it, whatever end result is gonna happen, kind of a thing. That so yeah, I think there's like, even I think like if they kind of look to dig the tunnel any further, I think they get caught nonetheless. Like no one really makes it out of there otherwise.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So, uh, yeah, I think also in terms of, I mean, I love different parts of when that entire plan is being built. So whether it be like the forging of the documents or the knitting or the sewing of the uniforms, or but for me the my favorite bit, and the one that probably got me on the edge of my seat, was that part where they, because they were digging and there's a lot of mud, they needed to deposit somewhere. And my god, when they figured out that they could like bury it under the sand that they're using to grow
for
produce.
farming. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was insane because trust me, like 9 times out of 10, someone or something would have fucked up. And also the fact was that it was weird. I thought there was going to be something of an insider mole thing, because the German guy comes in and starts checking the sand, checking the dirt, right? He moves it with his foot to see what is under. And I was like, huh, okay. I thought like somebody must have like maybe hinted to him or sort of informed, but that didn't really play out. I think it's just kind of, they're very methodical, so they're just checking everything and anything. But what was, so when we talk about the entire plan, what was your favorite bit or section of that plan which you guys were intrigued or fascinated by? Aaron?
I don't know if I'd say it's a favorite bit, but I think I like how they showed, like, not everything always goes to plan. And so when things kind of, there were setbacks, how they kind of found ways to get around it. So, like, how when they had the cave-ins happening, then they said we need more wood, and then they found ways of getting like panels of from the wall and then hiding it behind cabinets, or then the slats from the bunk beds and stuff like that way. And I think just showing how they came together to kind of have all that happen. I think also the fact like how McQueen's character Hilt, I think it was. So like
Yeah,
initially they were kind of trying to talk him into kind of doing the
Captain Hilt.
survey. Yeah, they kind of tried to get him to get out and then come back with information of what's beyond the woods and stuff like that way. And then after again another setback where the guy who was his mole helping him dig kind of gets shot down, then he also kind of becomes part of the team and accepts that thing and uh, gets out and then gets intentionally caught so that he can come and pass that information. So I think the whole
Do you,
camaraderie and that sort of
do
stuff.
you think though that Ives' death, right, where he walks up, do you think he did that because he was desperate, and after they found Tom that he was like, this is not going to work, I'll just go, and he was kind of desperate throughout? Or
Yeah.
did he kind of, I don't think it would have been like my death is going to spur these guys on, right? Like, or
No, for sure not. But I think also at one point someone says it to Captain Hilt that he's on the verge of breaking, and so they kind of refer to his mental state and his desperation to get out. So I think it was more act of desperation rather than any uh, l- I mean, this thing where he'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to sacrifice myself to kind of get these guys going." I
Yeah,
highly
because also
unlikely.
if it is about sacrificing yourself, I think he would think of better ways to sacrifice himself in which
Then
it counts for something, right? Rather than just like attempting to run in the center of the this thing and climbing over this thing. I think
a
probably
barbed
try and
wire
take out a couple of
fence.
people while you're at it of sorts. So yeah, he was just it's kind of clear in terms of the expressions he's got on his face as well. You see that light kind of uh
Die
get
away.
snatched away and like die away the moment like they get like there's a word of that being discovered, the tunnel's been discovered or whatever, and you see that he does not have hope anymore of sorts, and it's like he's accepted as his thing is like I just like for me this is how I get out, like if I get shot, so be it kind of a thing. And so yeah, I think that has nothing to do with like it's a lot more selfish at this point as opposed to being something about like more than what you want, more than what like would help someone else sort of a thing.
I really love the other bit, which is when they're trying to build the tools. They've got the choir outside singing.
Yeah,
Oh, come on, ye faithful, and that's hilarious. And it's like, I mean, the kind of precision that needs to be done in order for this entire thing to work, because you know how ruthless the opposition is, and they've like even for Hills, right? He could have easily escaped when he escaped the first time. He could have probably just left, but he knows that he would have been caught. Like he, no matter what you do, you would have been caught. So I don't think escape. Like I was just thinking, right? Like what was stopping Hills from escaping the moment he that whole plan was decided, that you escape and then you do the survey and then come back. You could have just escaped, but the opposition is so ruthless that they would have found you no matter what. And the fact is that you're in a country or in a place where the opposition is actually in the surrounding countries as well, right? It's not like if they'd crossed the border they were safe in any way or shape or form. So it was like it's insane to think the kind of precision and the way that the method that they had to do, and to think that this is all true life, like this has happened in reality, that these kind of things did in fact work, or that's what they had to think in order to do. But talking about the opposition now, like what did you guys make of the supervisor, right? Like the head honcho Von Luger. Like for me, I kind of felt like watching it, he wasn't like, for example, if I were to draw parallels to another sort of movie during the set around the same time, Schindler's List, like the villain there is a true villain. Like he was a maniac, it's like psychopath Nazi. Here it felt more like he's just a supervisor. He's come here to do his job. But also I felt like he relished the fact that I think the opposition, the ally guy, the general or whatever, told him that these men are going to try and escape. So he kind of challenged him that these guys are going to try and escape, and you were going to have to find a way to stop him. And I think he relished it as well, because I think across the entire thing he liked like the whole sand digging thing and everything, right? I like the fact, and in the end I felt like once he realized that whoever escaped then eventually got shot down, I think there was a bit of remorse that, oh, I mean, I would have liked to see maybe some of them actually succeed, and while a lot of them lost their lives. So it felt like he relished it as a challenge, as a game, and not more so like a proper villain where he was ruthless and a real bad guy. Thoughts?
Yeah, same for me. Definitely not. So I think he's more focused on his job per se.
Hmm.
Like it's clear that he'll do his duty, but it's not necessary that he enjoys every part of it of sorts or agrees with. every notion that is being kind of pushed from the higher management, let's say.
Higher management. Yes.
Right. And I think there is, maybe it's across, we don't really know, but like, I think being an army person yourself, you kind of understand the
Mm,
the drive of being a military officer. And while you have your orders, you also understand why they are doing what they're doing. And in this character's shoes, I feel that's what it is. He relates, like he understands his duty, but he also relates to what or why these guys are kind of trying to do what they're doing, and also towards the end, I think, yeah, he does relish the challenge, but also he loves the fact that there is no um it's not turning aggressive in a way where any either side is getting hurt in this
yeah.
specific scenario, right? Like it's not his men being hurt in any way while the escape attempts are being made, and as such there is no repercussion of that on the captives in itself. So it's like it's like a healthy competition of sorts,
Yeah.
who outsmarts the other of this thing, right? But towards the end, it gets out of his hand. It's no longer in his hand or in his jurisdiction, and that leads to fatalities. And I guess that's kind of where it is. It's like, like these were people. Also, that feeling of like perhaps he felt responsible for those people because they were within his this thing, and now that they managed to escape one which was partly his fault
Yeah.
in to do that, they've kind of met their end, as opposed to, like, maybe they would have had a, I mean, again, this is just a take on what was being done in the camp, right? And for
Yeah.
the parts that you see, it does not seem all that aggressive or this thing. Whether that was really the case, we don't really know.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
like from that perspective, I guess there is that feeling of maybe at least if I had kept the rules tighter or like the checks more, this thing, they would have at least lived on longer. Um, Whether the war ends or does not end or whatever, but at least they would have kind of been alive, I suppose. And maybe that's the regret that kind of shows on his face when he speaks about it towards the end of his tenure with the military. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen with him uh, post that
Yeah. I mean, he
story.
does say that you will see Berlin before I do. So I'm guessing nothing great. Higher
Hmm.
management definitely has something in store for him, and it's not
And the HR summoned him, so we don't know what happened.
correct. HR. Oh, no, it's AH, right? Yeah. Damn it. I wish if his initials was HR, that would have been great.
Hmm.
At least the H is common. But yeah, I agree. I think I really like that play or that relationship that both had. You're right in saying that it didn't get hostile. Like he could have easily been like he could have easily not warned these guys not to step over that fence or the boundary, because that's when ice goes across and he gets shot, right? Or even when I think what's his name, Hills, Captain Hills drops his baseball into that area, like because he thinks it's a blind spot, they shoot around there. So he could have easily not told them, and that could have been an alternate. People would have thought, oh, let's go through here instead of digging a hole. Let's try and find a way through the barrier, I suppose. Which I think, didn't someone try doing that? Because at one point somebody did cut through the fence, right? I think Hills
Yeah,
cut
it was
through the fence.
That was Hilt's and Ives' first attempt, right? That's when they get sent to the cooler the first time. They're all covered in mud because they tried digging over there.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean that. So that's what. So they kind of kept it. How do I say? I mean, this is obviously from the movie's perspective. I don't know, how, like you said, we don't know how it was in real life, but from the movie's perspective, they kept it kind of mutual and said, you just continue living and we'll continue monitoring. And who knows, right? Like, hindsight is a great thing that we knew that the war ended soon, or rather, at least Nazi Germany collapsed soon after Hitler's demise. But so you could have thought that, oh, did they actually have to go through this entire thing and like sacrifice or kill them, get themselves killed when they could have just maybe waited it out? But yeah,
But I think, like even when you look at eventually when Captain Hilt comes back after being caught, you see the smile on his face, and I think the movie is kind of hinting at the fact that they knew that they weren't going to get very far. It was more of just being a nuisance to the opposition, where I think like how in the beginning of the movie they said like, you are costing us a lot of resources and manpower just looking for you guys and stuff like that way. And I think it was that they knew that that was their role. They knew kind of the risks that they're not always going to come across German leaders or whatever that were going to be as kind and just bring them back. They could potentially lose their lives, but I think so. It was like you could see some people were conflicted towards the end. I think again I forgot again the scavenger guy's name.
Henley, I think,
Henley,
right?
I think it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, yeah. So he questions, was it worth the cost? But when Captain Hilt comes back, you can see like he's got a like in your face smile, like, ha, it took all this time and all these people to kind of bring me back, and you could see that there was some sense of accomplishment in him. So I think, yes, maybe if you look at it from the point of view that like the 50 people that lost their lives for what could potentially be seen as a futile endeavor. But yeah, I think they knew that their goal was to just constantly be challenging the opposition and getting them to kind of take their eye off the ball.
What did you guys make of that? The final escape. So when they escape, each one, I like that we followed different characters doing different things. It's not like all of them ended up in the same place. Though, my God, that train ride, like Henley and Colin could not have been any more like suspicious. Like
Yeah,
they could have just sat down, but the fact that they were just like moving from one carriage to another, like if I was there, I'm thinking I'll see commotion happening there and movement happening there. I'll be like, yeah, something's happening. Like, let's go there. But it was nice to see that each one had like a separate getaway. It almost felt GTA like. Like you go take the boat, you take the train, I'll take the airplane, and like it was fun to see. Of course, 95% of them failed, and a couple of them stupidly so. I think the fact that that idiot went and said thank you in English, yeah, like he
the
ruined it
irony
all.
was that during the practice, he was the guy who pulled up someone else for the same mistake.
Yes,
So
yeah.
that was a pretty cool way that the movie put it. But yeah, it was quite
Okay.
nice. I liked how they had different kind of escape plans, if you want to call it that. That was pretty interesting. It was also funny in some senses, like how the guy just picks up a cycle, in broad daylight, like clipping the lock and going. uh I mean, he ended up going quite a long way, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I liked how, I think, like Naeem mentioned, sometimes desperation gets you to do crazy things, but sometimes like even the most obvious ones tend to work out the best. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay, guys, forgive my ignorance and at the expense of sounding stupid. What is the exact reason these guys are actually kept alive? Like considering how notorious they've been, right? Like, and is it like from a fact that they don't really want to engage uh, the the countries these guys belong to in an all-out war per se? Like, even though the actual war is happening, what is the reason to kind of hold them captives as opposed to kind of putting an end to them for good? Is it like because you'll not be able to justify this if there are some negotiations to take place at some point?
It also could be like leverage during said negotiations, right? Like, I think there were like 250 or something somewhere in the movie that number was mentioned. So if it was really 250, so then you could say that we have 250 hostages and you could negotiate a deal, or if you like wanted to push forward or capture certain places, then you know this for that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, you could use it in many ways. I think the warden that Praddy had mentioned earlier, he was like a more humane guy, so it could also be that he didn't want so much blood on his hands. No, I mean, various reasons, but I think also having prisoners of war and as hostages is always something that whenever there is a war, I think countries kind of use that as leverage, especially if you have them in concentrated places. Then those air raids also, because you black out the city, then you could be bombing your own people essentially. So yeah, no, at least that's what I think.
I also think from adding to that, like these camps are also made to, and Nazi Germany and the Nazi era was famous for these concentration camps where they torture people and do all of that. So part of that was
Experiments.
probably experiments and all of that, or maybe I can't say ethnic cleansing, but sort of manipulating maybe minds in order to believe in the cause or all of that. But also I felt like you don't want to get rid of soldiers or skilled people, so maybe have them in these camps and build something for your own um, artillery and arsenal, make them work for your
Oh,
your army rather than have them, because at the end of the day these are skilled people, these are people who have also fought wars and we've seen also they're very resourceful, right?
definitely.
Yeah.
So I think here we're taking a small group of very resilient, very rebellious people, and we're also shown that you know what are the pitfalls of having these kind of camps, because nobody wants to be stuck in one place for so long and be a prisoner of war, right? They want to escape. So I kind of, yeah, it shows both. So it shows like what the camps maybe were for, and it also shows like they could have just lived their life. But again, the probably the criticism is that they showed life to be quite all right. I know it's not great because obviously there were no great meals and a lot of provisions were prohibited, right? They only got what they got. They couldn't go and or they had to grow all of that, like the whole potato thing that they had to grow and they made into some sort of alcohol, very potent alcohol. So the thing, I guess you're asking why they kept them alive. Mainly for negotiation purposes, but I also think that these other reasons also came in at different times. You wouldn't have seen this in the movie because I think this movie was probably just shown to be that they're going to escape, like this is the time that they were planning that escape. But like you said, maybe if it was a series we could have really seen how they were probably put to use, right? Because obviously they don't want to, I'm sure the Germans wouldn't want them to just be idle. Like what would you do,
But
right?
that's what they say at the beginning of the this thing, right? Do whatever you need, do your gardening and stuff like that. Like
Yeah, so that's
at least
what like Aaron said, this warden was probably the humane type, and just was like, I understand what you guys are going through, and I understand this war. We also saw it, right? I don't think he is exactly pro Hitler Nazi, because when in
Yeah.
the start when everyone says hi Hitler, he's the last one to do so, and he probably hesitates, or he has this sort of sarcastic angst, I
Chuckle.
guess.
Yeah.
Chuckle, yeah, but he's got this weird way of this thing. So maybe he does agree in Germany being or very nationalist about his country, but not so pro what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is babysit tons of soldiers, right? Because you'll then end up being responsible for it, which we saw the end how that pans out.
And especially guys who are on a basically a repeat mission of just constantly trying to create a chaos and stuff like that way. So yeah. But I think also, like Prady mentioned, is probably just trying to find the right fit as to where to utilize these people. And we all know that there were multiple camps across the
Yeah.
country then. So it's always when needed, then you look into the pool of probably prisoners of war that see who can fit best the roles that they have. Like they had pilots in Henley and stuff like that way. So uh, someone who could probably do mechanics jobs and stuff like that way. So maybe as and when required, they'd pull people out. But this movie wasn't really revolved around that, so or didn't
And
revolve around that. So
also,
probably why it doesn't explain as much.
so correct me if I'm wrong, but also what happens, I think the number of people that they're actually planning to get out is only like 70, 80.
250.
It's not, is the whole thing?
No,
So
250 is the
that's where I heard the 250 is because that's when they tell Captain Hilt that 250 and that's when he gets surprised like 250, are you mad? And that's where initially he has resistance to joining them because he knew that that was too big a number to go
Unnoticed.
unrecognized or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Because I was just wondering, I mean, there are tons of other people in that camp that we really don't spend time with. I'm sure they might
yeah.
be doing other things, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I overall, like, even when they're escaping, like, it's so fortunate, I guess, in some ways that, like, I think Danny and who's the other one? Danny gets out.
Really.
Willie gets out with Danny, and then that Sedgwick guy gets out with the Spanish mafia or whatever. I think that was
Yeah.
insane, dude. Sitting in a cafe, and then there's a drive-by shooting, and he's like, "Yeah, I want to join
The
them.
resistance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to join these guys." So it's crazy because everywhere they went, like I said, the surrounding countries were no better in the sense they were already probably occupied by Nazi Germany or whatever. So it like the other thing I was thinking is like, could Henley and Colin have taken the plane and flown anywhere else? But I guess unfortunate circumstances happened and they ended up, I think, out of fuel.
Yeah, but you
They
also have to
didn't mention it. They just said that the plane was losing power and that's why it
yeah.
went down.
Yeah.
But I think also you have to be wary of like when they're flying, it's not like they have a direct path to fly, right? They need to
Hmm.
kind of avoid a lot of things because if they go into like a military base or like across
Yeah.
those things, they're gonna be shot down, right? It's the fact that it's a smaller this thing that they kind of managed to get away from that camp or wherever that this thing is. But if they run into like a proper um, uh, military base with like the proper backups and stuff like that, there's no way they get away. So I think all of that kind of leads to that perhaps like a
And they,
more longer route of escape as
yeah,
opposed to more direct
and they
route.
were basically flying blind, right? Because I mean, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they probably didn't know where they were, what was
Yeah.
the surroundings and stuff like that way. So yeah,
But the other thing I mean, that entire motorbike chase sequence was awesome to watch, but it also felt like when he hid and he did this Tom and Jerry thing where he hid somewhere and then everyone went the other way. And it just felt like,
yeah,
oh, at that point you could have just turned yourself into some farmer or something. But I don't think he knew German enough to get away with it
yeah,
because only I think Bartlett and the other guy kind of knew. Or at least Bartlett was very fluent in German, and he almost got away with it until he went into some alley where the entire military was just waiting for him. Like, come.
yeah.
So
It was pretty cool how they some of them had to speak French
My,
and
my
get by
favorite
and stuff
part
like that.
of that bike chase was this thing where he goes like one way and then turns and then comes back, and then he finds this jump that allows him to get between those two
The
sets of
two fences, yeah.
barriers. I was like, GTA, bro, we've done that. We've done that to get into Fort Zancudo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like crazy, yeah. And we've gotten killed also trying to do that. So
Exactly.
completely relate with you.
It's like I relate to you guys. I relate to you. I did that. Unfortunately, you guys did it in real life and we did it in a simulated video game. But I relate to you, Steve McQueen, because you didn't die that doing that. Yeah, so it was I'm intrigued also to kind of I don't know if they mentioned it at the end to intrigued to know what exactly happened to everyone else that survived and was in that camp. To see, what the repercussions also were, right? Because while I understand Tom was discovered, and I don't know whether it was Dick or Harry that they went through. I think it's Harry. Harry, right? I think.
I can't remember.
So I wonder whether they were
Or
going
it could have
to.
been Dick. Could have been Dick. It was shorter by 20 something.
No, so it's Harry. It's Harry. So Harry was what they. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't want to get into that. Yeah. So probably this time they'd resize or
They trimmed it
they'd
too
make
short.
sure. Yeah. They'd make sure that that Dick was the right size, because at the end of the day, size did matter in this case. So I'm sure. Yeah. I wonder. No, but honestly speaking, like, given that Harry was still there, and I'm sure they discovered Harry because that idiot came out of the hole and at the wrong time, and they found that out. I still don't know whether they found out that the third tunnel was there, and whether they would have continued with that and made sure this time that it was going. Though
But
honestly,
this will be without Danny this time, though.
they'd be without a lot of the key people, right? Without the
And
strategist,
yeah,
without the forger,
yeah.
without the scavenger or the whatever, without Henley, and yeah, I'm sure even Hills also. I don't know what it is. So it would have been interesting to see how and what the repercussions of whatever transpired would have been. But also, my God, Bartlett's like luck that of all places, the one guy who recognized him was right there when he was doing that whole the documentation thing after the train journey. That's when his friend sacrifices himself, right? But like
Yeah.
you can think of, he could have been anywhere in the world, but given Bartlett's luck, he was right there in the right place and identified him and caused, and that kind of set the events in motion. That being said, I mean, Bartlett could have still like gone through with it had that idiot had his friend not spoken in English. So yeah, that them's the luck.
Yeah, I also didn't like get the fact of sticking so like after everything you've gone through of sorts, being so sticking together of sorts. Such a like at least if
Okay,
one of you
yeah. If would you have been like if you had gone separate and the other guy went separate? Would they have been? They wouldn't have been able to link each other, right? Like, say I had gone first.
right? Ideally that's the case. Like Bartlett gets through, and this guy is like maybe the seventh in line or the eighth in line behind to get into the bus. Maybe he gets caught, perhaps, but Bartlett makes it out alive because he's not blundered.
But do you think, given the camaraderie that we've seen, that Bartlett would not have done anything and been like, I am leaving? I found my way.
I don't think Bartlett would have done anything. I think he's more focused on his goal. Bartlett's goal is not to get back to his family, from what I understand, right? It's about putting together another set of people to kind of hit that Germany from within, from what I understand. So I think he goes through, and he seems like a man who goes through with his duty regardless of what happens around. So I think like even if the other person gets caught, he would have kind of moved on to set in motion what he actually planned on doing.
That's what he
Which,
tried, right? When Mac gets caught initially, he still tries to run, which
yeah,
then eventually he does get caught. But initially, he does try to leave this guy behind and make a break for it.
Yeah, which is hilarious that he was still out in the streets, because I would have just found the first house or something like that and then hidden somewhere or asked someone for help. Given that you're
no, but
fluent
you
in
can't do
German.
that, right? You can't.
Yeah, but who? How would you know if they would turn you in or actually help
Exactly.
you? Though?
Yeah, fair,
Would
fair.
you let a stranger in just into like, can you help me? Can you let me in? Like,
Yeah,
no way.
that's
I'm a nice guy, but I'm sorry. I cannot let a stranger in who's being chased by people. Scary to do that. Like, as good as
Yeah,
you think you are and want to help people, I don't think wanting a stranger to kind of break into your house or like, let me in, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool, here, come in, kind of a thing. So
fair, fair. All right. Anything else that we have left to discuss? Anything else that you thought caught your eye?
no,
I,
I
I
think
I like this solitary confinement thing and this whole focus on the like
Baseball.
passing
baseball.
time of baseball there, and like how he kind of just gets used to that per se, like lifestyle, in the sense that he's okay with it. It's like, I'll
And
keep doing this.
and not only him, but even the guard. I feel like even the guard's like, he's come again.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think also the subtlety, like how they try to show some sort of uh, humanness in the guards, because I think once or twice it shows the guard look at him and like kind of quizzically and like how is he still at it with
So
the baseball and stuff
complete.
like that way.
Yeah.
So that was quite nice to see. Yeah, I like how they kind of portrayed the characters in the movie.
yeah.
I
All right.
also like the fun bits in there, in terms of how, sorry, like
No, that's
the
fine. Go on. Go on. Yeah, yeah. There's more to talk.
the bunk bed thing where they've dismantled the this thing,
Yeah.
and the guy just like literally, like, you see the guy carrying the wood across, and he still just like rushes past, and he's like so focused on getting onto his bed that boom, he just falls down. And it's like,
Oh, that would
really,
have hurt. That would have
yeah,
hurt.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But it's
funny.
also funny that of all the people to have discovered Tom, it was the one guard that was a klutz and the idiot who they
Yeah,
took advantage of, right? And if
Yeah,
if if it wasn't for that tea kettle or whatever, that and him trying to pour tea into that,
by being a klutz, he found it.
yeah, yeah. Like, this is the kind of slapstick comedy where he then gets promoted from within because he's the one who found it, right? And he gets to meet the higher management. So,
funny how they show it in that sense, right? You kind of feel bad for him also for being used, and you're like, in a way, I'm like, my God, if this guy, like, if someone actually gets caught for his stupidity, he's gonna be in so
oh,
much
yeah,
for
yeah.
it. And you're feeling bad because he feels like a nice guy in the conversation he's having, right? He doesn't look like he's got any sort of ill motivation or something, intentions or anything like that. And you kind of don't want anything bad to happen, even though in the actual context of things, like, this is a guy who's on the wrong side of uh,
Yeah,
the the war or whatever you want to call it.
exactly. All right, so I guess that concludes our discussion of The Great Escape. Anyone who's watched this entire episode so far, kudos to you. But also, do hit the like button, share with friends and family, subscribe to the Three Body Narrative, and we'll catch you all on the next episode.
And let us know if you should watch Diwar, which is
Yes.
loosely based on this movie, if you want us to review that one as well. Although
Also,
I don't
do
think it's
also I'm
as good
intrigued to
a
know.
one.
No, but I'm also intrigued to know, like, what would you do in such a situation and what your role would probably be. But I guess we'll wait for your comments on that. But that's it for this particular episode. We'll catch you on the next one. See you.